Republic. Democrat Congressman from California, Ro Khanna, is reportedly attempting to force a vote on a war powers resolution as early as next week, maybe. But so far, House Democrats do not appear to have enough Republican support to pass that. Our Middle East correspondent, Zach Anders, he's live on the ground in Tel Aviv with the latest on this. Zach.
Well, Bob, Iran has now formally petitioned the United Nations Security Council seeking international intervention and threatening that the regime will take decisive action, they say, to any U.S. military aggression. And they're outlining what they're calling legitimate targets across the region that the regime says they reserve the right to retaliate against, including the U.S. bases. Now, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi today claimed the regime is still preparing a proposal for the next round of talks if they take place. He also claimed that in Geneva last week, the United States team never asked for zero enrichment or a permanent suspension of their nuclear program. That's claims that fly in the face of this White House. They've already made it very clear that the regime must halt their nuclear weapons program. Now, the Iranian foreign minister says there will be no military solution to their nuclear program. He says the only way they would be able to end it is through diplomacy. Now, here in Israel, defensive preparations continue for possible missile attacks. Reports in Hebrew media today claiming that senior military officials are sharing with journalists in the Israeli media that there is going to be no airtight solution, they say, to thwart every ballistic missile fired. Of course, we learned that lesson during the 12-day war in June. The intelligence assessments here warn that Tehran was able to quickly restore their ballistic missile production facilities after the 12-day war, and that their current production rate has now reached 100 new ballistic missiles a month. Guys.
Zach Anders, thanks so much for the update.
Let's talk about it. Bring in former National Security Council Chief of Staff and former CIA analyst Fred Fleitz, along with the National Council of Resistance of Iran Deputy Director Alireza Jafarzadeh. Pleasure to have you both on. Alireza, I want to start with you here. I know you're recently talking about new satellite imagery that shows Tehran is now rebuilding their nuclear arsenal, or trying to, after Operation Midnight Hammer. Can you talk about that?
Definitely. You know, the Iran regime has spent over $2 trillion on its nuclear weapons program. That's more than all the oil revenue that the mullahs have made since 1979 that they came to power. That shows how central, how crucial it is for their survival. That shows that they have not changed any plans for either abandoning their nuclear weapons program, but also their missile program, their drone program, but also supporting for terrorism. So that's why I think it's so important to realize that if we are looking for a solution, that solution has to be regime change by the people of Iran. No other path will really get you to end the threat of the Iran regime. And of course, we saw during the uprisings since December, lasting to January, that how people in all 31 provinces in over 400 cities chanting death to Khamenei, death to dictator. That's where the real momentum exists, and that's where the focus should be. Siding with the people of Iran, the organized resistance, those resistance units of the MEK, which is the same movement that exposed all the major nuclear sites of Iran. They are the ones who are in the forefront. They are the ones who are confronting Revolutionary Guards. And there were many cases that they disarmed the Revolutionary Guards. That's where the focus should be.
Fred, your take on all this?
No, I agree. And concerning negotiations, the Iranians have never negotiated in good faith. Their claims, what goes on, can be taken with a grain of salt. The Iranians have a history of using negotiations to draw things out and buy time. They tried to do that last year with Witkoff. It didn't work. I think they're trying to do the same thing now, thinking that President Trump will settle for a long-term series of negotiations, maybe going through the end of his term. Trump doesn't think that way, and he's given them an opportunity for a pretty good deal, but they don't want to negotiate because they are fanatic Islamist radicals. They're not going to give up their nuclear program no matter what we say. So I think that these airstrikes are taking on a life of their own. They're probably inevitable now. I expect there'll be some kind of military strike after the president gives the State of the Union. I think it'll be limited at first to see if the Iranians come back to the negotiating table. And a big target is going to be taking out Iran's sizable missile arsenal, which Israel sees as a significant threat.
So we're hearing from Zach Anders building 100 missiles per month now. Fred, Alireza, got to leave it there. Appreciate it. Thank you.